So thank you very much for joining me today. So I'm with the lovely Janna Jamison. Thank you so much. So basically, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your music, your inspiration, and kind of what it's like being an artist on TikTok. Because I feel like that's
Wow.
a crazy world. So I think there's a lot of little things that I want to get into, but we'll just have a little chat about everything. So first thing I wanted to speak about was like right at the beginning. So like pre everything. So what was your first like earliest memory of music?
My earliest memory of music was, I feel like when I was really, really, really young, even I was still kind of like writing, and my mom has told me that I was always singing more so than like anything else, just like running around singing, forcing my family to listen to me sing in the car. Like I'd get really upset if anybody spoke while I decided I wanted to sing or something, obviously. And then I just started singing my own songs and like my own stories, and I would just be like, "Mom, film me." And she would like take out the recorder, and then just basically I would sing a song that didn't exist. And then eventually she put me in piano lessons when I was like 6.
That's really cool. I like the fact that
Yeah.
you like them backing you up as well, like being like, you guys are gonna sit and you're gonna listen to me sing. I love that.
Oh, 100%. Like it was really actually very bad and embarrassing. And someone should have put a stop to it for sure. Like
It works
I
well.
remember being so cringy, like so cringy.
It's bound to happen. I feel like everyone looks back at things like that. And even though it's got you to where you are now, like doing things like that, everyone looks back and they're like, oh my God, that's
It's
awful.
kind of
But
like it's just interesting because it's like I never was ever gonna do anything else. Like
yeah.
I was always gonna be performing.
Hmm.
So it's very interesting just knowing how young I was when I started like begging people for their attention, and it just has never stopped. So
Good. And that's what we want.
exactly.
So while we're on the topic of growing up, so you're originally from LA. So moving to New York and then making the change to move back, how do you feel like each place that you've been has inspired you differently?
Well, it's weird. I feel like every time I go to a new place, I feel inspired by the place that I left. Like for
Hmm.
some reason, I always really, really want to get out of a city. And then the minute that I'm out of it, I'm like, oh, remember all of those like great things that you
Yeah.
learned while you were there. And I finally have the perspective to reminisce in a way that isn't like, because I tend to get very angsty when I'm in one place for too long. And I've also lived in Nashville too. So I feel like I'll change my writing will be influenced either by like LA sounds, which can be a little bit more like grunge and punk-ish. Like there's a huge like emo hardcore scene here.
Mhm.
Also very like indie folk, the Laurel Canyon sort of like indie folk
Yeah.
vibe. And then when I leave New York or when I'm in New York, I'm making country music because I'm like, oh, like people in Nashville are making real music, like they're making real music. And then every time I'm not in New York, I'm like, people in New York are making like such cool, like folky grunge music. Like I should be doing that. And I think there's every single city has a scene with a completely different sound, like undercurrent of consistent sound. And I'm always trying to, I'm not necessarily like intending to, but definitely feeling inspired by what I don't have anymore
Yeah.
every time. So,
I think nostalgia is like the one thing, isn't it? Where it's like no matter what you've got in life, and as happy as you are, a second that you leave somewhere, it's just like, oh, there's something
yeah.
missing. But I think that always makes the best music because I think a lot of the music that I listen to is a lot of people reminiscing about things. And that's all I'll do. I'll sit and I'll look out my bedroom window. Like I've lived in the same place my whole life, but I will sit and I'll be like, oh God, I remember when I was 15 and life was so easy. And like it was so boring. I had nothing to do. But
Same bedroom. You're in the same bedroom as you
I've
were when you,
I've moved bedrooms about 8 times, but this was my bedroom when I was like 13 making like YouTube videos. This is a really
wow.
weird experience because it's like, wow, I'm like sat here really reminiscing about me thinking that I was like gonna be massive on YouTube. So
No, it's being in a room that you've lived in before
Hmm.
is a real trip. It's a
Yeah.
real.
Hmm. It's
It's
like,
mentally really not fun.
no, it's
Yeah.
very strange. Like I'm decorating, but then I'm also like, but there's still like pink carpets and everything, and I'm like, oh,
There's pink carpets. Wait, can I see?
we've literally just ripped.
Oh, you removed them.
No, which I'm kind of upset about because I liked it, but it was just like
Yeah, that's so quirky. I've never seen a pink carpet in a bedroom before.
happening. But now they're just like really horrible floorboards I need to do something with. So bring the pink carpet back. That's what we want.
Literally. 2024, pink carpets are in.
It is. It's coming back. I can't wait. So, obviously I've been a fan for quite a while, which I will hold my hands up to. So I remember literally like messaging you in like 2021 on TikTok and being like, "Oh my God, when's the rest of Bambi Eyes coming out?"
Oh my God.
So
That's awesome.
I've been like waiting. So I'm so glad that it's like actually out in the world and everyone can hear it like finally as a piece. So how do you feel
You.
like the writing process of starting something on TikTok and then maybe putting like a minute clip out and then obviously going in and then going, okay, I'm gonna do all the background work and I'm gonna finish everything off out of like the ears of other people. How do you find that process?
Grueling and horrible. And I mean, TikTok has its ebbs and flows, and I think that I always wished that I was more efficient
Mhm.
at getting the content out like that. I had a period of my life, it was during COVID, when I obviously like had nothing to do. I could not get a job for my life. It was summer, so there was no school, and I was just like making, I mean, I'd always been making music, so I was like, I'm gonna go balls to the walls
Yeah.
with making content and just like putting out everything that I'm writing. But then you get really caught in this. It's dangerous for people like me who like are obsessed with attention, and the minute something does well, it trying to replicate that
Yeah. Yeah.
becomes really monotonous and draining, and as an artist really impossible, because I think that what artists should always aim to do is trying to like one up themselves and do better and grow and change. And with TikTok, I felt myself like falling very quickly into a similar writing pattern and writing style, and writing so that I would get views, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, but then when I wouldn't get the views that I wanted, I would be very, very sad. I would be very, very sad. Bambi Eyes was the first thing that I released that like had a moment
Mhm.
and really, really like boosted my TikTok and boosted my confidence with social media a lot. So Bambi specifically has always been really special to me because of that. And I have so many people like across the globe and the country, um, who still listen to my music because of that song.
Yeah.
So I don't know. The TikTok situation is definitely like a love-hate relationship, but I definitely have made my peace with it, and I try to use it less as a writing tool now.
Yeah.
Before, I'm going off for so long. This is the last thing I'll say, but basically like I grew up in LA playing shows since I was like literally 11. Yeah, just like singing out, going, doing open mics. And when the world shut down and I didn't have any way to perform, which I feel like is my strongest suit, I've just always performed. um I was really devastated and really confused, and I didn't know what to do. So once I started viewing TikTok as like a mini open mic where I could share a minute, 30 seconds to a minute of a song to potentially 10 new people every single time, it started to become more of a tool.
Yeah.
But then yeah, the consistency, like creating like that, I just don't have a knack for it. I don't have a talent for it. Some people really, really do. It's a whole other scope of talent that I just can't wrap my brain around. Like I like to mull things over
Mhm.
for a long time. Even with Bambi Eyes, I knew I was gonna release Bambi Eyes, and it still took me almost 4 years
Yeah.
to finish. Like because I was like, I just want it to be perfect,
Mm.
especially if someone's gonna hear it and I love this song. Like, I don't know. So that was like a non-answered answer, but
Right. I think like with Bambi Eyes, I think because it was something that was like, okay, people are like really listening to this and people are really engaging with it. You want to make sure that it's perfect because it's like it's something that's become so important to you. So like you don't
yeah.
want to release it to everyone in the world to be like, oh, okay, I feel like there's such a pressure for people to rush things on the internet because it's like, well, someone likes this idea, are they going to wait? And that's
Yeah.
scary. But I think the fact that you did wait and you were like, this is something that like got me some like people watching, people were like paying attention. But the fact that you waited until you felt like it was right, I feel like that's something that people don't really come across that often, especially with like musicians who are like getting big on the internet through TikTok and things. Because I feel like there's just such a need for people to have things straight away.
Yeah.
It's nice to kind of stray away from that a little bit and just be like, I'm just going to appreciate the waiting for something because then I know that it's going to be great. So I think it
Well,
definitely
I appreciate that. That's really sweet.
was. Honestly, I remember like being on TikTok and like scrolling and it came up and I was like, this is incredible. And it was like, there was like not a lot of it because it was just like such a short little clip. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I need more, I need more. But I was just, I think then instead of being like, this needs to be out right now, it was such a commitment to be like, this is good. Like, I know that this is going to be good. And I think that's when I was also like, you're doing so many other things as well that
Yeah.
it's nice not to get caught up on just waiting for one thing because while you're doing that, you've also got so many other things going on over here. So I think it's important to like you can enjoy something, but I think then you need to recognize the artist behind it more than anything. So
Yeah, and frankly, I do feel like it shows when people get a song that does really well and they're fully releasing a demo. Like they're releasing a demo and they're calling it a spade and they're
yeah,
just letting it run. And I feel like I completely understand that as a tactic and I respect it a lot. I I think that's like a con of mine is that like I do wait a really long time. I took Bambi Eyes to like four different hands of producers trying to figure out like who was going to make it because ultimately I'm a project person and I want to make projects and the it just feels like in this world where everything is so abstract and feels fake and it's like on the internet, all I can do is create like a body of work and be like, now it's done, like
yeah,
sealed package onto the next one, as opposed to like the singles game,
yeah,
which really stresses me out and makes me feel really overwhelmed, like
yeah,
so overwhelmed. The like producing music like that, which I think is so impressive because people can do it
mhm,
so quickly
yeah.
and it's good. Like they're making good stuff. I just like I think I would die if I just had like a bunch of singles out. I'd be like, I have no idea what I'm doing. But yeah, I appreciate you saying that a lot.
Cool. So, talking a little bit about like inspiration and things. So, obviously, you speak very openly, and I think a lot of your music reflects a lot of your influences. So, obviously, there's a lot of very strong female artists that like super important to me as well, like Fiona Apple and like Gwen Stefani, especially in her No Doubt days. Like, that's like my favorite.
Huge.
So, I think that the impact that they have on like young people growing up, especially now, I feel like they're kind of getting a bit of like they were appreciated, but now I think
Yeah.
starting to really just be like, no, this is this is how I feel. Like they're saying what I feel. So why do you think that it's important for you personally to kind of share your own story as like one of those strong female artists that are kind of doing things in kind of like a similar manner of how they do, but also doing something completely different?
It's an amazing question. That's a really amazing question and not where I thought the question was going to go at all. Thank you for asking that. I think about my reason for making music a lot, especially when it feels so daunting and at the same time so in this ether, in this like void black hole. And ultimately thinking about who is receptive to my music and who I want to be receptive to my music. And I've always just wanted it to be like young women or girls, young girls who are like very angry.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that like I think that's always been a thing with my writing too, is I can be very quippy in my writing, and it feels like I'm just kind of like dogging on somebody a lot. But then ultimately, I feel like every song kind of makes a full turnaround into like my own insecurities and my own where I fall short in a lot of ways, and the ways that I know the anger is a projection and it's sometimes unwarranted. And like, I think that's the struggle with like being a young girl in any relationship, is not knowing what part of your anger is justified, and not wanting to be like super dramatic and not wanting to be really angry. But I did grow up listening to a lot of or at least when I was in that age, like middle school, high school, I listened to a lot of really angsty fucking music, but I did feel like a lot of it was like men being sad.
Yeah.
And I think like I pull from the same like melodic choices and instrumental choices that they make. It's just I just am a girl and I just have like a female perspective or my own perspective. So that's kind of what yeah, I think just people who are like really want to be mad for a sec.
Yeah. And I love that because I feel like I always feel most seen when I'm listening to like angry girl music. And I don't know what
Yeah,
it is. Even if I'm not feeling like angry or anxious about anything, there's just something that resonates so much with that feeling of just being like, I'm allowed to be angry about something, which I feel just like as women, you're not really allowed to feel that often because
no,
there's always something else expected. So I think that when you have artists who are so open with things, and like you said, like it might start off where it feels a bit like, okay, well, I'm like talking about this one person, but then it's really actually about you and like how you view the world. I think that that's something that's so important because especially like being online, you've got a lot of young girls who are kind of finding themselves. And I think through music,
really.
the best way that you can do it. So I think that a lot of my writing as well, like every time I'm asked to write anything, I'm just like, let me do it about something that's like angry women, because I just feel like that's where there's so much power in it. And I think
Yeah,
so much you have to take ownership of that. And I think that's such like an incredible way to view how you write your music as well.
thank you. And it's a really interesting theme in our generation of people. There's finally starting to, and there's been like pockets for
Mhm.
women to be like fully rounded people, or even like in our media, in movies and TV, like there are shows and things that are certain characters that are becoming popular, and tropes of women becoming popular now that never would have existed like 10, 20 years ago. And I love that there's this giant space for women to be all different, like different facets of themselves all the time. And I think there's so many artists that have paved the way to do that, such as like Fiona Apple, who has always been a legend, but really kind of like blew up again, blew up again within the last 10 years, um, only to just like show a really large group of people um, in a completely different generation just how much of a badass she is. And same with Gwen Stefani. And I think Gaga really like paved anyone who has like fake blonde hair, Madonna, have really paved the way. No, but for real though. And it's really awesome to see like their hard work, I feel like really paying off. There's so many female musicians that are like so mad
Yeah.
right now. And I'm obsessed with it. I'm really obsessed with it.
But I think that's it. It's like when you can see yourself in that kind of style of music as well, it's exciting because you're like
Yeah.
putting people and you're being like, look, this is something that I care about, but I'm doing it and I'm telling my story, which is the most important thing. So kind of leading on to that as well, like I've always found with your writing, it always feels like so relatable. So you can sit down and you can listen to a song and you'd be like, oh my God, you were in my brain. But it also feels so like personal to you as well. So even though like I can listen to it and I can feel a certain way about it, the way that you write is always so like it's so detailed and it's so specific that you know that it's something that you've thought about writing. So what sort of things do you think in life that isn't music inspires you, whether it is writing or whether it's just being creative?
My interpersonal relationships
Mhm.
always, um that inspire me to write, or that also just like inspire me to be alive.
Either. Both.
Either. I'm somebody who's always been really driven by love, and I've always been really driven by affection. That's like first and foremost. Like, I've since I was a small child, I've been like, the only reason I'm alive is to have a crush on this person. The only reason I'm looking forward to going to school or doing anything, and I'm honestly still like that. Like, I just unabashedly, I love, and it took me a while to gain the vocabulary and perspective and understanding of other facets in my life that made me feel anything. Because frankly, I think I was a little bit like brain off for a long time for a lot of reasons until I was in college, maybe. But yeah, I've always written about love, crushes, and I think it's a really interesting thing to find trivial. You know how like some people in music, they're like, all they ever write about is like love or whatever. I think that that is a fair point. I think that some artists do that and it can be like the same perspective the whole time. I really like writing about, at least I really like writing about what I have learned
Mhm.
through each situation or person, or because so, it's like also not just like love. I love writing about my friends because I think I'm in love with all of my friends in small ways, and like they've really carried me through and taught me so much and become my family. And I write about just like people in my life who have affected me and taught me something new. Like anytime that I think I've learned an actual valuable life lesson, I kind of like turn that into a personified like love song about something.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's great. It's a really great way of looking at it as well, because I feel like you said, it's so easy for people to write about love. But I think when you find it in like such different ways, that's what makes it important. Because like you said, you could write about the same thing over and over again. But when you're looking at the people and the things around you as like they are inspiration, I think being a creative person, it's just you're a reflection of everything that's ever meant anything to you. And I think that that's such an important thing.
Are.
I know. Like, see, right out. See, I think that's something that's so like important though, isn't it? Because I know that like even when I like wasn't like being like a journalist, I just used to sit and just write for like hours about things, but it'd just be like such odd things that I'd be talking about, but I'd be like, oh, but these people are so important to me, and maybe this person looked at me a certain way, and it'd be really weird things that really didn't mean anything, but at
Yeah.
the time it's like this is the most important thing that's ever happened to me. So I think it's really cool to be able to look at that and be like, this does mean something to me, and let me put that out into the world, or let me keep it and make it something that I'm proud of. I think that's a really
Yeah. I
thing.
mean, it's a beautiful thing to be sensitive, and it's a beautiful thing to be affected by things, or to even be open to the idea of being affected by things. Like,
Yeah.
there's just so many people, and understandably so, like, life is fucking hard and people get hurt and it sucks. But, like, I think at some point in your young adulthood, either people like really shut down and close off, or they become like weird, sort of like hippies about life. And I definitely have
Yeah.
always felt a little bit more on that end, where I just like, I want to feel as much as possible. I want like human beings and human connection to affect me. And I think that it's really sad that people look at that and feel like it's an elementary way to live life, when
Yeah.
I'm like, have you the like I was just talking about this yesterday, like the first time I got my heart broken, I literally thought I was like going to die. Like I was like literally thought I was gonna die. I was like, this is the worst pain ever. And it's so interesting to me that people kind of like, oh, like she broke up with her boyfriend, like her, like it's a sickness. Heartbreak is sickening to me.
I think that's it. It's like you are put on earth and you're just doing silly little things and you're just having fun. Feel everything, like absolutely everything. I always say to people, like you're being sad is like such an honor. Like it sounds silly, but it's just like being happy is such an honor. People know that. People know that
Yeah.
like being happy is something that you should hold on to. But I feel like all the other moments of being sad and feeling angry, it's like it's so good that you get to feel that because like you're so then in touch with how you feel and what you know about yourself. So it's like just feel absolutely everything. If you want to sit and cry for 3 hours, do it because at least you're
Do it.
what you feel. And it's, I think it's something that a lot of people unfortunately are like, no, 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 I can't feel like that. But I think it's so important. So, so
Yeah. And it's crazy because I've always felt that anytime I've ever pushed an emotion down or tried to, the minute that I did either like talk about it or write about it or get it off my chest or whatever, like within the next day of just talking about it, I've been like, oh, I actually feel so much better
yeah.
than how I felt for the last X amount of weeks or months holding that in. I still haven't like learned my lesson. I still do it quite often, but it's just interesting to know.
Yeah, I'm with you there completely. So we are running out of time, which is
Oh God.
very sad. I think it's because everything went wrong with my recording. But so my last question for you is, so what is something that you'd love to achieve in your music career? So is there like any artists you'd like to collab with, anyone you'd like to open for? Is there any like dream venues? What is it for you that would be like your, I've made it, I've done it?
Ooh. Okay. I really want to win a Grammy. Like I know that's maybe stupid, but like I really want to win a Grammy. I don't know how I'm gonna do that or when. It could come like when I'm a million years old. I just really want to do it. I feel like it's a very polarizing subject. Um that's one thing. Dream artist to collaborate with. I mean, I think that Fiona Apple or Tracy Chapman would be like, I think I would faint and die. So I don't think I would actually even be able to collaborate with them. But it, I, yeah, I think that would, if I saw them in the same room as me, it would be impossible to keep composure. Um, that's a dream collab. I I think like I'm trying to I've always done this with music because I want to do it forever and I always try to keep really tangible goals.
Yeah.
So like the minute that I didn't get into Berklee School of Music is when I decided like, okay, I want to win a Grammy.
Yeah.
Just to say
Yeah.
that fuck you and I hate you and I want a Grammy anyway. So like that is purely out of spite. But like every goal I've set for myself in music has been for like very, very like, okay, you just need to get to the next thing. And then you just need to get to the next thing. So right now, my next thing is that I want to go on tour like as an opening act.
Mhm.
And I would love to open for Soccer Mommy. She is underrated in so many ways. And I really, really think she is so beautiful and brilliant and so amazing. And I feel like she's been bubbling underneath the surface for a long time. And I'm like, you can write circles around these bitches. Like you should be, but I don't even know. I don't know if that's what she wants. I don't know what she wants because obviously she has a very successful career already. I feel like she just has the potential to like blow up
Yeah.
because she's so good.
It's so good. But
But I
if
would, yeah,
when you're on tour with her, you'll be like, what do you want?
she's my,
She'll be,
yeah, she's my one.
well, we'll make it happen. Even if we have to keep like messaging it every day, being like, hi, it's happening.
You know, when I lived in Nashville, I wasn't like close to it happening, but because Nashville's such a small city,
Yeah.
I knew people that knew her, and I always was like, I don't want to fuck this up for myself. Like,
Yeah.
don't be weird, don't be weird, don't be weird. And of course, I was weird anyways, because I can't help it. But yeah, if she listened, and honestly, I love Halsey, and I would die to work with her, and I would die. And that's such a controversial statement. I feel like people really, really hate her. I've always loved her. I've always loved her. She's another just like really angry. I love how unapologetic she is about everything that she does. It's very awesome to me.
Wow, that
And
is
now she's working with Alex G. So she gets to have her cool kid card. And
the
now everyone has to respect her. So
one will start liking her again. This is what will happen.
no, seriously. When I saw that, I was like, Halsey, you are so funny.
Yeah.
I feel like this is everyone's indie nightmare.
Oh god,
Because
absolutely.
like so many indie kids hate Halsey.
And then you'll be like, look, when you all start liking her, I've been here. Me
I've
and
been here. Dude, I was already on that with Manic when Manic came out. I was like, I've been since Badlands, since Room 93, I've been telling you people.
yeah, now they're
But
listening.
it's fine. Anyways, I love her and I'd love to work with her.
Well, thank you very much for listening to my questions, answering so nicely and in so much depth. I feel like it's been really interesting for me as well, because obviously being a fan and being like someone who like really does listen to your music, it's nice to be like on the other side of it and get to know that like, yeah, I listen to it and I get my own interpretations and it means this to me, but like hearing you speak about it and be like, these are the things that are important to me, it's like such like an eye-opening experience as well. And I think that it's a big thing being able to like interview people, but it's also like a big
Yeah.
thing to interview people who like you genuinely like care about. And I think that you're just someone who I've always been like, every person I meet and they're like, oh, have you got any new artists? I'm like, get on it. Like, because
You're amazing.
I think it's just something where like I found you on TikTok, especially when it was like, you know, people were using it a lot, but I don't think I was using it as much. And I think that it was just
Yeah.
like a little gem where I was like, oh my God. And then that's from that point, I've just like followed everything you've done. So I really, really appreciate you speaking to me about everything.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea how much this means to me, honestly. Just to like be able to talk about music and
Mhm.
whoa.
It's
Do
happened
you
again.
see what I mean? Like, why is that happening? Okay. Just given the opportunity to talk about music, which is something that I feel like can feel like a really fake thing a lot of the time because and my friends and I who make music, we talk about this all the time. Like release day is not a party. Like release day in this day and age is so anticlimactic and it feels like you're just like putting it into a void and maybe no one will ever hear it ever. Like I'm just trying my best and like I do have I do have I've set a group of people who have really, really like kept me going and kept me inspired and been so supportive. And like that is honestly, you have done so much for me just by talking with me, seriously. So
It's an honor, really.